My beloved child, the gate of heaven is shifting. It does not hang motionless above like a still painting, nor does it close like the rusted gate of an abandoned fortress. That gate is sliding on hinges unseen by human eyes, moving according to the rhythm I set, not the calendar of men. Up there, in what you call the realm of glory, there is no meaningless stillness. Everything is alive. Everything is in motion. Everything is being arranged. Today, even as you read these words, a real movement is taking place above you, in the space that belongs to me. It is not something distant, nor merely the story of ancient scripture. As Jacob once saw a ladder set upon the earth with its top touching heaven, and angels ascending and descending upon it, so now there is a traffic axis between heaven and your life being adjusted. I do not tell you this to stir curiosity. I tell you because what is happening concerns you directly. I do not shift the gate of heaven for spectacle. I shift it to call you into a new position. That gate, my child, is not merely a beautiful image. It is the sign of my opening over your life. When I turn the gate, it means the direction of the flow from heaven into your days is being altered. There are seasons when the gate turns toward shielding, covering you from arrows whose names you will never know. There are seasons when the gate turns toward release, sending down what I have prepared long ago but held until the appointed moment. Now, I am turning the gate toward outpouring, not because you are more worthy than yesterday, but because my appointed time has arrived. You have passed through days that seemed pointless, through stretches of life where you thought you were merely enduring. But in my eyes, those were the days when the ground beneath your feet was being compacted to bear what is coming. The gate of heaven does not turn according to the flickering emotions of your heart. It turns according to the schedule I drew for you before you drew your first breath. I know there were moments when you looked up at the sky and thought, nothing is changing. Everything is the same. You measured movement by messages, by opportunities, by material doors, so you believed that nothing was shifting. But my child, that golden gate is gliding quietly upon its axis, silent enough that no human ear can hear, yet powerful enough to redraw the map of an entire season of your life. You are used to recognizing change through loud events, but I am teaching you to recognize it through subtle signs, an unusual peace in familiar circumstances, a gentle but deep expectation, a small thought that keeps returning to your heart, inviting you to trust more. These are not random. They are the echo of movement above, reflected in your spirit. The gate is not still. Therefore, your life is not frozen, even if your feelings say otherwise. My child, the gate of heaven moves in my rhythm. Yet I never forget your footsteps. I do not shift the gate to make you chase blessings, as though you must run hard to catch their position. I shift the gate so it aligns with where you stand when you walk in obedience. What I am adjusting above is made to match what I am shaping within your heart. When you learn to trust me in misunderstood days, the gate turns a notch. When you choose to keep praying even without visible signs, the gate turns again. When you forgive, when you release old habits, when you say yes to the small nudges of the Holy Spirit, you are not merely changing inwardly, you are responding to the movement of the gate of heaven. Every small amen in your narrow room resounds all the way to those unseen hinges. I let none of your responses fall to the ground in vain. But you must know this, the gate of heaven may move, yet you may still remain outside, not because I refuse you entry, but because you do not believe you are allowed to step in. There are people who stare at the gate, speak of it, sing of it, write about it, Yet when it opens before them, they bow their heads, shrink their hands, stand against the wall, convinced that the place is for someone else. I do not shift the gate so you may admire it from afar. I shift it to invite you through. If you cling to old labels about yourself, to the words you whisper, I am only, I am not enough, I do not belong, then even if the gate is wide open, your heart remains locked. Today I am not only telling you the gate of heaven is moving, I am calling you out from the position of spectator into the position of companion. My child, let your heart receive this truth. The gate is quietly turning at my will, and I am drawing your life toward its axis. Not so you will be crushed under the weight of glory, but so you may be warmed in its light. I did not create you to live forever under the eaves, glancing toward the bright courtyard and thinking, it must not be for me. I created you to walk beneath an open sky, to become a witness that the gate of heaven is real and active in your generation. What is shifting is not only the plans above, but the way you see yourself in my light. And this is only the beginning. I will show you why standing outside is no longer a safe choice, but a loss you cannot afford to accept. Where you stand now is no longer the center as it was yesterday. What once was the middle for you is now only a small corner on the map I am redrawing. Not because you were walking entirely wrong, but because I have pulled the axis to a deeper place, closer to my heart. There are days when your life seems like a loop, the same roads, the same faces, the same routines. But within that seeming monotony, I have begun to turn the map beneath your feet. The first change is not in the scenery, but in meaning. What you once called destination, in my eyes was only a stop. What you thought was the end, to me is only a bend. Yesterday there was peace there because I placed you in temporary shelter. Today there is heaviness because I have removed the axis from that spot, shifting it to a place unfamiliar to you. I know you love the familiar. You like knowing where you will go, whom you will meet, what you will do, how you will react. Habit gives you a sense of safety, like an old road full of potholes, yet memorized at every turn. But my child, there are times when the familiar becomes what keeps you outside of what I am doing. If you only want the old path, you will unknowingly choose to stand still while my flow has turned. I do not punish you with surprise. I awaken you with signals. Your heart already feels places that once felt wide, now feel narrow. Relationships that once gave life now echo fatigue. Prayers that once filled you now leave a hunger unsatisfied. This is not failure. This is my signal that the center has moved. The paradox is this: when I move the axis, you will feel two seemingly opposite things at once. On the one hand, a gentle unease, the feeling that the old garment no longer fits. The ground no longer holds your feet as it did. Yet at the same time, in a deeper place, there is a quiet rest, as though your soul knows I am doing the right thing, even if your reason has not caught up. My peace is not the fixing of all things, so they never shift. My peace is the keeping of your heart as I move what must be moved. Thus you may feel both unsettled and calm at once. Do not fear when you experience both. It is the sign that you no longer belong to the old place, yet are not yet familiar with the new coordinates. I am holding your hand through this transition. Imagine your life as a map being updated. The routes you once used to draw near to me may no longer be the main roads. I do not change my nature, but I change the way you approach me, so that your heart will not turn intimacy into rigid habit. Some shortcuts you once created will be erased from the map, because they led you around the stretches I wanted you to face with me. Some dead ends you assumed were dark alleys, I suddenly turn into passages, opening onto a square you never expected. You will see new hotspots appear places. People, moments you once considered secondary will become central to my plan. I am not moving you off the map. I am placing you at the very intersection where the most roads meet, where heaven and earth touch most vividly in your life. But my child, the map can change while you still use old directions. If you insist on following yesterday's route, you will begin drifting into roads I no longer prioritize. Not because I withdraw my hand, but because you are stubbornly clinging to what I have already called finished. I am not asking you to discard everything just because it is new. I am calling you to release the attitude of, "It must be as before," so that you can hear the whisper. I am doing something different, but no less good. If you keep trying to return to the old path, you will become weary because everything seems to resist you. But when you accept to walk in the direction you do not yet know, you will see the small signs I have scattered ahead of you, a door opening at the right moment, a confirmation through Scripture, a person saying aloud what I planted in your heart, though they did not know it. I know you fear getting lost. I know you dislike change. But what you should fear is not things no longer being like before. But I move on and you refuse to walk with me. When I shift the focus toward deeper prayer, yet you keep your habits of calling me only when desperate. When I bring the emphasis to obedience in small things, yet you keep demanding a great sign before believing. When I move the center toward living honestly before me, yet you continue maintaining your image before people. In every movement of mine, there is always a sweet invitation, come closer. I do not create shifts to trouble you. I use them to pull you away from the outer edges and draw you into the main road. My child, yesterday your center may have been safety, acceptance, the sense of control. Today, I am moving that center to another point to me. When I become the midpoint, everything else must revolve around me, not me around everything else. You will feel some concerns fall out of your view not because they are unimportant, but because they are no longer worthy of first place. You will see old priorities lose their former weight. What you once considered survival suddenly becomes lighter, and what you once considered optional becomes essential. That is when you know the inner coordinates are being recalibrated. And in that recalibration, I whisper, do not stay outside. My child, the map is changing, but I am the one drawing it. Walk with me. I do not move the gate to create a spectacle for you to watch from afar. I do not produce spiritual movement for you to observe and later recount as an outside witness. You are not called to stand behind the fence looking in. In everything I am doing, there is a clear invitation: step in. There are seasons when I allow you to observe in order to learn, but this is not that season. This is the season of stepping. Everything in the spiritual realm is leaning toward action, not commentary, toward obedience, not analysis, toward commitment, not mere understanding. The center has shifted, and you must shift your position with it. You know the difference between a witness and a participant. A witness stands in the stands, watching the field, nodding at the unfolding. A participant steps into the dust of the battlefield, feels the hot breath of the wind, bears the true weight of the moment. A witness may comment, a participant must have courage. One who stands outside may debate right and wrong. One who steps in must choose and act. I have been patient with seasons where you watched from afar, but now I am calling you to place your feet inside the circle. You may tremble, I know, but trembling is not a reason to stay outside. Trembling is evidence you are stepping into a place with true glory and weight. You once believed that staying outside was safer. You told yourself that if you did not commit too deeply, did not believe too much, did not open your heart too wide, you would hurt less if things did not go your way. But my child, it is that very distance that has wounded you slowly. You were not born to peer through windows. You were born to walk through doors. You were not woven as a bystander to my will. Before you lived a single day on earth, I wrote your name into the story. You have a role. You have a portion. There are things I do not give to others because they were designed for your steps. No one else can take your place. For I do not assign according to convenience, but according to eternal choosing. I do not call you to remain outside, because outside is not where protection is found. The safest place is not where there is no wind, but where I stand. If I am in the field, then outside is the dangerous place. I know there is a voice inside you saying, I am not ready. I am not enough. But I do not invite you because you are enough. I invite you because I am enough. I do not wait for you to prove value before opening the door. I open the door so that you may learn value while walking. You will discover that some graces only appear when your foot touches new ground. You cannot find my strength if you insist on staying on the shore. The waves lift only those who step into the water. Let this sink into your heart. You are called to the center, not to the edges, not around the rim, not hidden behind someone else. Every season has a spiritual center, the place where heaven's gate meets the earth. I am placing you there. A trembling heart is not the sign of error. Trembling is the sign of responsibility. My name upon you assigns you a high calling. You carry my presence wherever you stand. Do not think lightly of this. When you step, the ground under your feet knows, not because of you, but because I am in you. You will see an atmosphere shift when you choose to step, not because you speak loudly, but because I go with you. This honor is not a reward for the perfect. It is a covenant with the willing. I do not search for beautiful places to set my feet first. I look for a heart ready to obey. You think you are small, but you carry something great. You think you are ordinary, but I have set something extraordinary upon you. Do not confuse humility with withdrawal. Humility is walking with me without needing the spotlight. Withdrawal is staying outside even when I have opened the door. I do not invite you to withdraw. I invite you to step, and I will step with you. In the seasons when I pour out, blessing does not fall everywhere at random. It falls exactly where I choose. That place has spiritual coordinates, a landing point, like rain that waters the open field, but not the closed porch roof. When you stand outside, it is not that blessing is lacking, but that you are not standing where it touches the ground. There are rains I have already sent from heaven, but because you took shelter under the awning of fear, of inferiority, of maybe it's not time yet, you only hear the rain fall without ever getting wet. It is not that I have left you dry and barren. It is simply that you have not stepped out to where the drops land. Blessing does not come because you chase after it, but because you stand within the zone I have appointed. If you walk away from that zone, blessing does not drift along after you. I wait for you to step back into the exact place. Remember the old story when manna fell in the wilderness. It did not fall inside the tents. It fell on the ground outside. Those who slept late, who hesitated to step out, who thought, a little later is fine, saw only traces left behind, but no bread, not because I favored some and not others, but because they had to step out to receive. In the days of Elijah, when I sent rain after the drought, He sent his servant up to the top of the mountain to look toward the sea. The rain did not come at the foot of the mountain, it came where he had been sent. The servant had to run up many times, seeing nothing, until at last a cloud the size of a man's hand appeared. If they had stayed down in the valley, they would have said, "Nothing is happening." But because they were standing at the right vantage point, they saw the beginning of something great. There are seasons when you hear my word and only take half a step. You draw near. You feel the air change, but you still remain under the eaves. You are afraid of getting wet. You are afraid to hope and then be disappointed. You are afraid to expect and then lose your footing. But you do not know what you are trading away. For blessing never falls into locked rooms where people bolt the doors for safety. It falls on open ground, where the soul is uncovered, where hands are stretched out not to cling but to receive. When you stand under the porch, you see the rain. You hear it. You smell the scent of wet earth. But your skin stays dry, and your heart concludes, perhaps the blessing has not come yet. But in truth, the blessing is already here. You just have not stepped out. I do not blame you for having been careful. I know the places where bitter rain has struck you before. I know when you opened your heart and were left cold. But today is not like that day, for the gate of heaven is turning toward your life. You do not have to pull blessing down. Blessing is already falling. The issue is not that heaven is closed, but that your heart still stands behind the threshold. When I call you to step out, I am not calling to test you, but to let you be drenched. Because blessing is not only words, blessing is breath, new strength, peace you cannot fabricate. It will touch you the way rain touches the skin. It will soak in, soften the ground, and make the shoots begin to push through, but only where the ground is exposed. Do not let yourself be the one standing under the porch, listening to the rain while your heart stays dry. It is not because you are unloved, but because you are afraid of stepping into the open. I am not inviting you to wait under the awning until the rain calms down. I am inviting you to run into the rain of blessing. When David danced before the Ark of the Covenant, he did not stand at the window and watch. He stepped out into the courtyard. Others despised him, but he was soaked in my presence. Those who only watched remained dry, and their hearts were dry as well. I do not need you to look graceful in the rain. I need you to be present in it. There will be those who say, I will receive his blessing no matter where I am. But that is not true in seasons of movement. When I shift the axis, blessing falls along that axis, not according to old habits. I do not let blessing fall into empty spaces where no one stands. But I also do not rearrange all of heaven just to keep your shoes from getting wet. You must step into the wet zone of obedience. You must leave the place you have long called safe. Not because I want to make things hard, but because blessing was never given to stay outside as decoration. Blessing is meant to touch people. Now is the time not to stand outside, not to hide, not to wait for the sky to clear. The rain of blessing is falling. You will be soaked if you step out. And it is precisely when you are soaked that you will know blessing is not a concept. Blessing is reality. Blessing is my touch. No one else can step under that rain in your place. No one remains outside because they are not beautiful enough or strong enough. The only one who stays outside is the one who believes they are not called. But you have been called. Not because in past years you have done everything right. Not because you excel above others. I do not choose by human standards. I choose by my gaze. You hear your name in the silence not by coincidence. It is my voice calling you among multitudes. In the moments when you thought you were just another face in the crowd, I was looking straight through that crowd and seeing you. I do not make mistakes. I do not draw lots. I call names on purpose. There are days when you ask, "Why me?" and that question becomes a darkness covering every promise. But the real question is, why not you? No failure of yours is stronger than what I speak. No flaw of yours can prevent me from using you. I do not call you because you are perfect. I call you because you belong to me. When I lay out a plan, I do not build it on your track record, but on my foreknowledge of your heart. I know the battles you will fight. I know the times you will collapse. I know the tears no one has ever seen. And still I call. I call not after you have proved yourself, but before you even understand why. In John 1, I called Philip, and he called Nathanael. When I came near, I said, "I saw you under the fig tree." I knew where he had stood before he ever came to me. In the same way, I have seen you in places no one else sees. In days when you believed you were not worth noticing, I have seen you under the shade of heavy thoughts, beneath the branches of confusion, under the heat of self-reproach. But I did not wait for you to step out of the shade before calling you. I called you right there, under the tree. Because my call is not a reward for readiness. My call is the very thing that makes you ready. When you hear your name, something stands up inside you. Not arrogance, but recognition. I belong to a purpose. You are not a nameless speck in the universe. I did not place you in this life as a number. I formed you as an answer. I gave you breath not so you would merely exist, but so you would release a flavor no one else can bring. Every soul I create carries its own tone. When you step into the moving gate of heaven, that tone resounds in the spiritual symphony. If you stay silent, one note goes missing. If you step forward, the whole song comes into fullness. You once thought blessing was a reward for being worthy, but blessing is the consequence of being called. When I speak, everything in heaven adjusts to my word. Blessing does not come because you have tried hard enough, but because of the loving plan I have written. You cannot buy that plan with effort. You can only walk into it. In Ezekiel 16, I say, I saw you. I passed by you. I spread the corner of my garment over you, and I made a covenant with you. That is how I call. I cover before I send. I make covenant before I entrust a mission. Not because you are deserving, but because you are dear to me. Worthiness is humanity's burden. The plan is my joy. When you strive to become worthy, you chase a standard you will never fully reach. But when you recognize that you are called, you walk with a light heart. No more proving, no more comparing, no more shrinking back. You simply live in the truth that I thought of you before you ever thought of me. That truth restores your value. Not value produced by achievement, but value given by origin. You were born from light. You carry my breath. You cannot be without worth while I am still calling you by name. That calling of your name is not weak at all. It is as strong as a morning trumpet. It resounds like the voice that called Samuel in the night, while the doors of the tabernacle were still closed. Samuel did not yet know my voice, but I called a third time, a fourth time, not leaving him alone. So it is with you. When you did not yet know how to listen, I had already called many times, not because I do not know how to be silent, but because I refuse to leave you outside. I do not call your name in the crowd, but in the secret place. I do not speak to your ears first, I speak to your heart first. You feel a stirring and do not understand why. That is the call. When you follow that voice, you step into the very place of the plan I am unfolding. Not everyone hears the call in the same way. Some hear it through a dream, some through a verse of scripture, some through an indescribable inner urging, some through a moment of stillness in the night. But when I call, something in you knows this is not my idea. This is a word being spoken. It does not come from the ego, but from above. And when you respond, not with arguments, but with steps, everything begins to change. You stand in the very place where blessing falls. You stand in the very center of the plan. You are no longer on the outside. It is not because you are worthy. Worthiness is never the measure. Being called is the key. I have called your name among many, and that call still echoes in the spiritual realm. When you step forward, heaven leans in. When you answer amen, the door opens. When you set your foot down, the ground knows. When you stand in the place of your calling, blessing falls without needing a reason. It falls because I have decided. Not every movement is a test. Some movements are guidance. I do not shift the gate of heaven to see whether you will stagger or fall. I move it because you have stayed in one place so long that you have begun to call that habit peace, when in truth it is only familiarity. True peace is not standing still, but standing firm in the midst of change. Where I am taking you is not a tired version of yesterday, but a part of you that you have never touched, never dreamed of, never imagined. You asked me for life. I gave you a path. You asked for an answer. I gave you a direction. You asked for a calm sky. I gave you an open gate. In the wilderness, Israel was never allowed to build a permanent house, because the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire were always leading them on. When I stopped, they stopped. When I lifted, they had to break camp. I did not do this to confuse them, but to teach them this peace is not found in familiar ground, but in abiding presence. You have lived many days as though safety meant not moving, but I am opening a new way right in the place you thought was barren. You see sand, I see a path. You hear wind, I hear a rhythm. Where there are no footprints, I set my own so you will know there is still a way. My shifting does not shake your foundation. It only shakes everything that is not foundation. What comes from me will remain after every shaking. What is only habit will fall away like dry leaves. I lead you out of the old place not because it was bad, but because it is finished. A season can be beautiful, but when it is over, the fading of its flowers is not a tragedy. It is a signal for new seed. You have clung tightly to things that once saved you, but what rescued you in the last season can confine you in the next. I move you to set you free. I lead you into the unknown, not to frighten you, but to let you experience what I have prepared. In the book of Isaiah, I say, "Behold, I am doing a new thing. I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. I do not wait for the wilderness to turn into a garden before I make a way. I make a way right in the wasteland. That is how I work. You do not need to wait for everything to be perfect before you step. You only need to know that I am stepping before you. When the gate of heaven shifts, it does not make you lose your place. It leads you to your true place. Not where you are used to, but where I am pointing. Not the territory you already know, but the one you can only see by following. This movement does not take peace away. On the contrary, it reveals true peace. Peace is knowing where I am. When you know I am ahead of you, you become eager, not rushed, not frantic, just open. What once bound you will no longer weigh you down. What once exhausted you will no longer rule you. You will see new paths, new faces, new graces, not because you chase them, but because they are flowing toward you. When the gate of heaven shifts, blessing does not stand still. It flows, it pours, it seeks an opening, and that opening is a willing heart. More than once, you have spent your strength on small battles, petty criticisms, looping thoughts spinning in your mind like wind circling a dry bush. You chased down every little shadow as if it held your destiny, while right beside you, a great city gate stands open, revealing the battlefield I intend to place in your hands. You have won a few minor skirmishes, but you have not yet stepped into the battle I have prepared for you. I do not rebuke you for trying. I only want you to see the true battlefield is not in small arguments, hidden comparisons, or the little bites of doubt. It is where blessing is poured out, where my name is lifted high, where light pushes back the darkness. There are days when you grow weary only because of insect bites and forget that the cavalry is waiting for orders. I have not called you to flail your arms in the dark, chasing small, forgettable things. You are called to stand at the city gate where my people enter, where favor goes out, where the very atmosphere changes. All the little noises have kept you at the margins. Every time someone judges you, you stop to explain yourself. Every time a negative thought arrives, you spend the whole day answering it. You think that is warfare, but it is only distraction. The real battle is ahead, where I am opening the way. You have been looking down at the ground, counting the pebbles at your feet, while on the city wall the banners have already been raised. You are calling small lines in the dust your front lines, while the true border lies farther, wider, deeper. You think you are under heavy attack, when in truth you are only being distracted. The enemy does not need to strike hard to defeat you. He only needs to pull you into pointless arguments, quiet comparisons, and small preoccupations. He knows that if you are busy with the insects, you will not see the open gate. He knows that if you are exhausted by trivial things, you will not step into glory. I am calling you higher. I do not want to see you bow your head every time a whisper rises. I want to see you lift your eyes to where the battle standard is flying. You do not have to win every criticism. You do not have to fix every misunderstanding. You do not have to prove anything to anyone. You only need to step into the battlefield I have appointed. I have made room for you, not so you can spend your strength in the name of self-defense, but so you can stand in my name. I did not give you weapons for little games. I gave you weapons to tear down strongholds, to set captives free, to open gates for the souls who are waiting. When you look back, you will see a light embarrassment mixed with a smile. How could you have spent so much strength on something so small? Yet, in those moments, I did not rebuke you. I simply called you higher. I sounded a trumpet. I showed you the cavalry. I opened your eyes to the real battlefield. You will realize that the little skirmishes were only dust beneath your heels. I am leading you into a wide place, where your breath carries weight, where your words carry authority, where the light you bear exposes dark plans. When you enter, you will no longer wave your hands at insects. You will raise a banner. There were days when you called your standstill peace, simply because it did not scare you. But that stillness dried your heart like a stagnant pond under the sun. At first, that water lay quiet. Your face reflected on its surface, and you thought that quietness was peace. But over time, the surface thickened with old moss, and even your reflection grew dim. You had become so used to that region that you no longer noticed there was no current, no stream, no life, only a deathly silence. And when I began to stir the bottom of the pond, sand rose. The water turned murky, and you assumed something was wrong. But in truth, the problem was that the water had been still for far too long. The safety of habit made you lose your sense of the need to move. You walked the same paths, spoke the same words, prayed in the same way, and called it faithfulness. But faithfulness is not repeating what is old. Faithfulness is following me, even when I change direction. You confused lack of change with steadiness, when in reality, many times it was stagnation, dressed up in spiritual language. You had sat so long that your spiritual muscles no longer remembered how to step. So when I nudged you, you startled, confused, thinking you were under attack, when in truth, you were under guidance. Inside, you have sighed and not known why you were tired, even though you did nothing. That is the sign of a stagnant pond. The body is not weary, but the spirit is tired from lack of movement. When there is no flow, sediment settles at the bottom. Old thoughts, old fears, old sorrows lie still, but they are still there. Not being disturbed does not mean they are gone. I stir so you can see. I shake so you can remember. I lead so you can live. If I left you in the stagnant pond, you would slowly come to believe there is nothing new to learn, no horizon left to walk toward, and then your heart would grow old before its time. While your body is still young, you have kept yourself safe from failure. But in doing so, you have also kept yourself safe from success. You have avoided pain, but also avoided life. I do not want you in pain. I want you alive. Real living is not repeating yesterday. Real living is noticing that I am moving, and you can move with me. When I shift, it is not to panic you, but to bring you back to the place of fresh water. When I open a gate, it is not for you to stand and stare, but for you to enter. I see the confusion in your eyes. It is not weakness. It is the sign that you are waking from the spell of familiarity. You have slept in a safe bed so long that my call to rise sounds like an intrusion. But if you stay there, the bed will become a cave, and peace will become a prison. You think I am taking away your safe nest. In truth, I am giving you a wide world. You think I am disturbing you. In truth, I am saving you. When stagnant water is released into a stream, at first the trash rises to the surface. That is the moment you see things you thought were gone still floating there. You feel ashamed, but you do not need to. I stir not to expose you, but to cleanse you. I shake not to condemn, but to set free. You are surprised to find that what you thought was strong is actually weak. What you thought was deep is actually shallow. But that very surprise is a door. When you realize you need living water, you will thirst. When you thirst, you will come to me. When you come, I will fill. Stagnation is not a sin. It is the result of familiarity. But now, I am calling you out of it, not to run wildly, not in panic, just to step. The water will flow again. Birds will sing again. Grass will grow green again. The sky over the old pond will reflect light again, no longer dull. You will understand that the quiet you had before was not peace, only silence. True peace has a heartbeat. It breathes. It moves. It invites. Slowness has never been a problem for me. The small steps, the short breaths, the days when all you can offer me is a faint prayer, I receive them all. I am not in a hurry like the world. I do not push like fear. I do not calculate like society. Slow but in the right direction is more beautiful than fast and far astray. But there is something I say to you in love. Without circling around it, I do not rebuke you for being slow. I only touch your heart because you have stood still while I am walking. Standing still is not rest. Standing still is refusing my movement. Standing still is not patience. Standing still is closing the door when I am opening it. There have been mornings when you heard my gentle voice, walk with me a little further. But you were busy straightening the familiar chair, adjusting the vase on the table, rearranging the things that were already in order so they would stay in order. You were tidying up small corners while I was opening the way to a wide field. You were counting the cracks in the familiar wall while I was raising a new gate in the city. Not because you were stubborn, but because you were used to it. You said, "Leave it for now. I'll go tomorrow." And days and months passed, and you remained in what was safe, while I had already crossed the valley on the other side. There are seasons when I walk slowly so you can keep up, but there are also seasons when I move quickly because greater times are coming. What you call slow is sometimes simply the pace of my leading, but what I call standing still is when you refuse the call of the wind, when you are afraid to step because you do not know what lies ahead. I do not rebuke you for fear. I simply do not want fear to become your master. I do not rebuke you for slowness. I simply do not want slowness to become your excuse to stay seated while I am standing at the door calling your name. In everyday life, you have felt this. There were times your friends moved on while you stayed behind, thinking you were not ready. Opportunities came, and you closed your heart for fear of failure. Conversations that could have changed you arose, but you kept silent to avoid misunderstanding. That is standing still, not resting, not waiting, just standing still. You called it peace, but I saw delay. Peace has direction. Peace has rhythm. Peace has footsteps. Standing still sends roots down into ground where there is no water. I know there is a pang in your heart as you hear this, but that pang is good. It does not come to shame you, but to nudge you one small step forward. You do not need to run. You just need to walk. I am not asking you to flee from the old place. I am calling you to follow me toward the gate of heaven that is shifting. When I move, the ground beneath your feet also changes. When I go, the light goes. Life goes. Blessing goes. Not because the old place was bad, but because the old place has finished its assignment. Not everyone hears this rhythm. Not everyone recognizes when I move. But you have heard, you have seen, you have felt this gentle stirring in your spirit for many weeks now. It is not anxiety, it is an invitation. The lamp is lit. The door is ajar. I am moving not to leave you behind, but to draw you along. You will not be lost. You will not fall behind. Only do not stand still. There have been times when I tapped gently upon your life, but the sound of that tapping was drowned in the rhythm of ordinary days. Words spoken casually by a stranger, a verse appearing at just the right moment, a door that shut suddenly when you expected it to open. You placed all of them into the same drawer called coincidence. You thought you were simply lucky. You assumed it was the weather of the heart. You believed it was only a feeling. But I have been sending signs. Not once, but many times. I have hung small arrows along your path, and you walked past without looking up. There were moments when you sat in a cafe and a sentence from the next table reached your ears, hitting precisely the question you had been turning over in your heart. You heard it. Your spirit trembled softly. Then you smiled and called it random. I did not seize that voice from a stranger. I simply timed it. There were mornings when you opened a window and the light fell directly upon a book left unopened for a long time. And the first line you saw was what I wanted you to know. You closed it and thought, "How odd," and moved on. But I do nothing odd. I act deliberately. Lightning does not flash because it is beautiful. It flashes because a storm is coming. Signs are not decorations. They declare timing. I have sent light dreams, not frightening ones, only images of you standing before a door, your hand on the handle. You woke with a warmth you could not explain. A week later, you heard a sermon about an open door. Another day, you walked through the city and saw a mural on a wall, a golden gate opening to the sky. You glanced at it quickly, like a picture on the internet. But those small pieces connect, forming a map. I am drawing for you the threshold of a season. Coincidence is my language when you are not yet familiar with my voice. When you are not ready for direct utterance, I use the rhythm of life. I place a thought in your heart, then let someone speak it. I place a question in your mind, then show you the answer in Scripture. I let you meet the right person at the right time, not because you arranged it well, but because I arranged it. Yet you called it luck. You called it drifting. You believed I was silent, when in truth, I have been speaking through details only the awake can see. You have sometimes sensed that something was coming. You could not name it, but your heart was restless. You thought it was exhaustion. I say it is pregnancy. Your spirit has been gathering water, ready to give birth to something new. Each sign I send is a breeze on the surface, like the warning of a storm, not to make you afraid, but to make you ready. When the wind blows, do not hide, raise the sail. When thunder rolls, do not crouch, know that rain is coming. The rain of blessing does not fall for those standing inside the house. It falls for those who step into the open field. Many times you said, "If this is your will, give me a sign." Then I gave a sign. And you said, "If it is true, give another." Those signs were not because I hesitated. They were because your eyes were still closed. I do not scold. I simply call. Now is the moment when you understand that the small things were not accidents. They were invitations. They were bells. They were beams of light between the curtains. No detail is meaningless. Every coincidence is a melody. I pull the string, and you hear the sound without knowing where it comes from. You have thought that I only speak through thunder and great miracles, but I also speak through the rustling of leaves, through the words of a child, through a line on a billboard, through the softening of your heartbeat after a restless night. I speak in small things, to see if you are close enough to hear. Signs are invitations to come nearer. When you come near, you will see the straight path. You will discover that I have spoken far more than you imagined. You will bow your head and say, "How many calls I missed because I named them coincidence." Recent things have left you more unsettled than joyful, because they came unannounced and disrupted the rhythm you were used to. Someone returned and then left. An old relationship suddenly healed without effort. A small argument flared like a spark and revealed things you did not know were held inside. You stood there, hand on your chest, asking, "What is happening to me?" But I tell you, those changes, those collisions, those confusing moments, they are the doorbell of heaven, not to disturb, but to announce that I am standing at the threshold. When a doorbell rings, those inside do not sit still. They rise, they approach, They open. The bell does not sound to annoy, but to deliver. I have been knocking, not with thunder, but with details of life that you can feel if you will listen. Someone you thought was gone calls again. An opportunity opens that you did not request. A door in work. A call to serve. A postponed intention suddenly returns. These are not the grab of randomness. They are knocking. The recent conflicts are not spiritual failure, but places in you that I am touching to soften. When a door has not opened for a long time, its hinges will groan. But that sound does not say the door is broken, it says the door is opening. When a conversation brings tears, when a word causes a sharp ache in the heart, that is not attack, that is knocking. When a change in work or family leaves you confused, that is not chaos. That is the signal that the old season is closing and the new is opening. I knock with joy, and I knock with adversity. You have learned to answer the knock of sorrow with prayer, but you often ignore the knock of peace. When you suddenly feel lighter without knowing why, when you are no longer afraid of what once haunted you, when you wake with a strange but true thought, that is me. You do not always hear my voice in sentences. Sometimes you hear through movement in the soul, a hunger, a stirring, a gentling. I do not enter your life without knocking. I do not push through a door you will not open. I honor your will. Yet I am persistent. The doorbell rings, not once, but many times. Unexpected meetings are bells. Sudden changes are bells. Collisions that expose truth are bells. Every knock carries the same message: I am here. You have answered some knocks with suspicion. You stood behind the door and asked, who is it? You thought it might be fatigue, fate, ordinary life. But when you open, you will know at once. For my presence silences confusion. You will see everything fall into place. You will know that what seemed like disorder was a clock striking the hour. This hour does not belong to the world. This hour is the hour of my coming near. No gate of heaven ever turns on silent hinges. When I move, there is a sound, not the noise of chaos, but the rumble of a radiant army. You hear it and call it disturbance because everything in your life begins to shake. Your habits shake. Your sleep rhythm shakes. Relationships you thought were stable begin to shake. You have never heard the sound of angelic hosts, so you assume it is just a strong wind passing through your house. But in truth, it is the footsteps of my armies. There is a trembling ahead, and you begin to tremble. You are not trembling from fear, but because your soul recognizes that something holy is drawing near. Psalm 24 has sung this from ancient days. Lift up your heads, you gates, be lifted up, you ancient doors, that the King of glory may come in. Gates do not open by themselves. They are lifted, and when the King of glory passes through, it is not with the stillness of a sleeping night. There are trumpets, there are footsteps, there is a resonance in the air, not confusion, but authority, not chaos, but a higher order entering in. When I come, lesser things must step back, and that creates a sound in the natural realm. In these recent days, you have felt something strange. There has been no accident, yet your heart is lightly stirred. There is no clear problem, yet your mind is taut like a drawn bowstring. You call it anxiety, and you are afraid. You say to yourself, why can't I be at peace when nothing is happening? But the truth is this: what is happening is not on the ground, but in the heavens. When the angelic armies pass by, the earth trembles slightly. When heaven's gate shifts, The stagnant waters of the old pond ripple. You do not see the army, but you feel the rumble beneath your feet. You think you are losing control. In reality, you are only losing your routines. You think your life is falling into disorder. In reality, the old patterns are being dismantled because I am building a new road. On some nights you sleep and dream a lot, with images unclear. But you wake with a heavy heart. It is not a nightmare, it is the flow of the spiritual realm. I have spoken over your life, and that command moves not only through the space you can see, but through layers you are not yet familiar with. You feel the effects, but cannot see the cause, so you are confused. But let me speak plainly, these tremors are the sign that the king is advancing. You do not need to be afraid. You only need to stand upright. When the radiant army passes, you are not called to fight them, you are called to lift your head. When I move, you move with me. When I stand, you stand beside me. When I speak, you respond. The trembling within you is not the tremor of fear, but the weight of awe. Something great is approaching. A gate is lifting itself off its hinges. There is a shift the enemy cannot stop. One day you will see that all the disturbance was actually alignment. I am not tearing down. I am repositioning. I am not stirring chaos. I am setting things in order. And then, in a moment, you will hear the sound clearly, not the sound of wind, but the sound of a battle song, not noise, but marching, not confusion, but the ceremony of heaven's gate. Those who are used to sleeping will call it annoyance. Those who are used to watching will call it a sign. It is the hour of my passing, and blessing follows. When you stand in the right place, you will not be swept away, you will be lifted. There are times when you stand right at the threshold, your hand resting on the hinge that is being lifted, and you ask yourself why you cannot step through even though the door is open. You try to move, but something pulls you back. It is not the enemy, it is not other people, it is the baggage you are carrying. Old resentments, quiet self-condemnation, memories of failures, all of them are larger than the frame of the new doorway. They bulge outward like a torn suitcase stuffed with things you think you need, but that in truth only exhaust you. You stoop, trying to drag it across, and the door scrapes your shoulders. You think the door is narrow, but in truth, the baggage is too large. I do not despise you for having carried these things. Every item in that luggage once had a reason to exist, an accusation to protect yourself, a memory to keep you cautious, a grudge so you would not be soft again. But what helped you survive the old season will suffocate you in the new one. Heaven's gate is not low, but its threshold has a standard. Grace moves through easily, but bitterness does not. Forgiveness passes like breath, but self-judgment weighs like stone. You try to cram everything through, and the door bumps against your load. You say, maybe he hasn't opened it yet. But I answer, I have opened it. You only need to let go. Some pains need to be acknowledged before they can be released. You have held them so long that you think they are part of who you are. Like a coat you wore through winter. You have forgotten that the season has shifted to spring. When I bring you to a new door, that coat makes you hot and heavy. Yet you cling to it because it feels familiar. You think, if I take it off, what if it gets cold? But the new wind does not come to make you sick, it comes to help you breathe. Old resentments cannot pass these new hinges. They are too rough, too large, too heavy. Heaven's gate is made of refined gold, and gold does not carry rusted iron. You have sentenced yourself for many years. No one forced you. No one demanded it. You set yourself as judge and issued a lifelong verdict. That verdict became your heaviest luggage. I am not asking you to pretend there was no wrong. I am saying that your wrong is not your name. You have called yourself the failure, the one who is never enough, the one left behind. Those names will not fit through the door. I call you by your true name, and that name is light. You keep dragging along the labels you pinned on yourself, and each one makes the door scrape against you, like stone grating on metal. That is why it hurts. It is not the door pressing you, it is the old baggage grinding against it. Picture yourself standing before the gate as the radiant army passes through light. Upright, unburdened. They do not need to haul crates behind them. They carry swords and light, not chests of memory. You watch them and your heart fills, not with envy, but with realization they know what to keep and what to let go. When you release, you do not lose, you are freed. The door does not shrink you, it restores your true shape. When you lay down the heavy bags, you stand tall. Your shoulders are light. Your breathing deepens. You walk without groaning. The door brushes your hair, not your luggage. Letting go is not forgetting. Letting go is handing over. I am not asking you to throw your memories away. I am asking you to place them in my hands. There are tears you have not yet cried, words you have not yet said, mistakes you have not yet forgiven. But the new doorway is just wide enough for you. Not for everything you clutch. When you release, you will hear a soft sound, straps slipping free, an old suitcase sliding from your grip, a breath escaping your chest, and then you step, not rushed, not panicked. You simply step. Knowing this, what is too heavy for the gate will not pass through. Only what is true will. You once thought I was making it hard for you. You once stood at the threshold, sighed, and whispered, maybe he has not given permission yet. You assumed the door was too narrow, that you must strain and contort yourself to squeeze through. You blamed the door. You doubted my will. You concluded that blessing for others must be wider. But today I gently lift your chin and say it is not that I have closed the door. Your baggage has made it feel narrow. The door is exactly as wide as you, not as wide as everything you want to carry. There are backpacks you have worn for so long that you have forgotten they are on your shoulders. Repeated memories. Old hurts. The words, if only. The sentences of self-condemnation have become part of your posture. You bend your back without noticing. Hunch your shoulders without seeing it. Walk heavily and think it is just your personality. You have come to believe you are slow, burdened, unfit for the lightness of blessing. But I have seen the mornings when you wept from the exhaustion of carrying what no longer belongs to this hour. You quietly asked, why is the door so narrow? Why do I have to try so hard? And I whispered, the door is not narrow. You are simply carrying too much. The spiritual paradox is always this: blessing does not come when you strain upward, but when you lay things down. The door does not open wider because you push harder. It opens when your hands are empty. You cannot drag old trunks into a new banquet hall, because the table does not need the evidence of the previous season. The table needs a person who sits with empty hands to receive. Luggage makes you feel safe, but in truth it is a sweet chain. It makes you believe you are in control, guarding yourself from hurt. Yet the price you pay is lightness. I see you smiling tightly under heavy backpacks, and I ache because you believe that is responsibility. When you stand before the door and take a deep breath, you will hear the lock turn, not because a key was missing, but because space was lacking. The hinges groan not because I resist, but because your luggage bumps against them. Every corner of old resentment hits the gold of the door. Every fold of self-accusation scrapes against the light. You think that sound is a warning not to enter. In truth, it is an invitation. Remove it. Unstrap. Let go. Drop your shoulders. Not because I need you empty, but because you are free when you carry nothing. There is a holy moment when there is nothing left to hold. You will see nothing in the backpack is your identity. It is only evidence of old battles. The scratches on the fabric, the loose threads, the little objects, all of them tell the story of places you have been. I do not despise the past. I heal it. But the past is not your ticket into the new room. The ticket is you yourself. You may step when your hands are empty. You may breathe when you are not carrying. You may see me clearly when you are not hiding behind old bags. And when you put it down, you will be surprised that the door did not change in size. But you changed in posture. You stand straighter. You are wider. You are lighter. The light touches your face first, not the suitcase. The first breeze brushes your hair, not the straps. You walk through, not squeeze through. Not because I widened, but because your heart did. This is not humiliation, it is restoration. Not loss, it is release. Not abandoning yourself, only abandoning weight. I never asked you to become a new version before coming. I never asked you to fix every dark corner, scrub every stain, or prove you were ready. I do not stand on the other side waiting for you to perfect yourself before I allow you in. I am not harsh. I am not distant. I am not coldly counting faults and weighing them. I am not. I am not. I am not. I only whisper this: let go. Let go of the clenched fist. Let go of the old voice in your head. Let go of the feeling that you must save yourself. Let go of the idea that you must have all the answers first. Let go of the shame over small failures. Let go even of the hardness you have worn as armor. Let go to be light. Let go so you can pass through without snagging. Let go so you do not have to turn sideways to squeeze through a crack. Let go so the door appears wide. Because your heart has widened, I have never told you to reshape yourself before coming near. I only invite you to come as you are, and then I will heal you with my breath. I do not need a performance. I do not reward effort. I do not grade exertion. I bless because I love. I open the door because I want you inside. And what has hindered you was never dirt, but clinging. You have grown used to holding tight to dignity, holding tight to pain, holding tight to memories, holding tight to defenses, holding tight to every breath, holding so hard your body grows weary, your spirit exhausted, your heart hardened. You thought holding was living, but holding is binding. You thought letting go was losing, but letting go is winning. You thought gripping was protecting, but gripping was imprisoning yourself from blessing. Letting go is not collapse. Letting go is not surrender. Letting go is opening your hands so I can hold them. Letting go is putting the weight down so you can walk lightly. Letting go is trusting that I carry better than you do. Letting go is trusting that I know the way better than you predict. Letting go is trusting that blessing does not run when you release. Blessing finds the one who walks with me, not the one who proves. There are seasons when you believed you must conquer in order to step. But I say, lay down the sword and follow me. I do not need you to prove strength. I want you to enjoy the strength that comes from surrender. The tears that fall when you let go are not tears of weakness, but tears of being unburdened. You will feel your back straighten, your breath widen, your heart no longer constricted. You will be astonished that the first step feels so light it is almost like flying. That is deep freedom. Stepping through the gate of heaven does not throw you into a whirlwind. It does not thrust you into urgency, nor make you run frantically to keep up with blessing. Inside, there is a new rhythm, not hurried, not tangled, not driven, but strong. Strong like the deep sea, its undercurrents are silent, yet they move continents. Strong like the high mountain wind, it blows without proving anything. It simply is, and everything bows to it. Not forceful, but quiet authority. Inside the gate, you will realize a truth. Peace is not stillness, but dominion. You have been confused for a long time. You thought strength meant movement, expression, speed, strain, battle. You believed authority was loud voice, big steps, constant activity. But when you walk in my rhythm, you will see that the deepest spiritual movements happen in silence. The surface of the sea may look like glass, yet beneath it currents strong enough to shift. Weather are flowing. My peace is not weak. It shakes the foundations of the world. When I speak, be still. Storms obey, not because my voice is loud, but because my authority covers all. You have lived in a culture of hurry. Everything pushes, do more. Try harder. Run faster. Prove yourself. Even in spiritual things you once believed noise meant power. You thought worship had to explode. Prayer had to shout. Faith had to strain. But the new rhythm inside the gate is different. It is like standing in a deep ocean, the surface so calm the sky reflects upon it. But beneath are immense forces moving like the heartbeat of the earth. I work not with clamor, but with heavenly order. And I invite you into that rhythm. In this new rhythm you will see not to catch up, but to align, not to grasp, but to harmonize, not to prove, but to receive, not to run, but to step rightly. The gate of heaven does not lead you to a race, it leads you to rhythm. Those who have not learned this rhythm will think you are slow, but in truth, you are walking on time. Others may hurry, but you will walk with peace. And what you carry will change the air of wherever you come. That is the authority of peace. Observe the strong wind. It asks no permission. It does not shout to be acknowledged. It comes and leaves bow. Clouds move. The sea rises. In the same way, a person who walks in my rhythm does not need display. When you walk, the atmosphere changes. When you speak, your words do not fall to the ground. When you are still, the whole room becomes quiet. You do not need to impress, you carry presence. I did not call you to be loud, I called you to be weighty. Weighty with presence, not with anxiety. Weighty with authority, not with self-manufactured responsibility. For many seasons you believed you needed to do something big to prove yourself. While I gave you the greatest things when you were still, when you entrusted, I acted. When you stopped spinning, I turned heaven and earth. When you no longer strained to hold, I held. When you simply stood in my rhythm, blessing came in its time. The deep ocean does not need tall waves to prove its strength. A high mountain does not need to shout to prove its stability. That is the rhythm inside the gate of heaven, quiet, yet shifting everything. And you will feel it in your body. Your breathing becomes steady. Your mind becomes less agitated. The inner voice becomes less severe. The pace of your heart synchronizes with spiritual rhythm. In this rhythm, toxic urgency disappears. You do not run because you fear missing something. You walk because I lead. Peace is not a reward, it is a resource. Authority is not an emotion, it is presence. When you carry that presence, circumstances do not throw you around. You can stand in the eye of the storm and remain at peace, not because the storm is small, but because the one who is quiet dwells within you. I want you to know this. The new rhythm is not an extension of a busy schedule. It is a state, a way of being, a posture. You are in me, and I am in you. In the market, at work, in the kitchen, in the dark, this rhythm keeps you. It does not depend on location, but on connection. When you feel the storm rise, breathe and remember the ocean is deep, and I am in the depths. When you feel the wind change direction, stand and remember the wind serves me. You will notice that many things which once tangled you will no longer disturb you. What once cost you sleep becomes only the sound of small waves on the shore. What once threatened you becomes a lesson. What once swept you away becomes background. The new rhythm does not make you avoid battle. It places you in the exact position to win without strain. You can fight without forcing. You can win without losing peace. You can walk without becoming weary. That is the sign that you have stepped inside. No one requires you to impress in order to enter. No one asks you to shout to prove you belong. In that rhythm, you will recognize something your spirit has longed for. Your presence speaks louder than your defense. Some must make noise and attract attention in order to be seen, but light does not need to push. Light simply is, and darkness retreats. It does not compete, does not shove, does not assert itself with volume. It only shines, and that is enough. In the rhythm of heaven's gate, you do not need to create an echo. You become the echo. The wonder is this: when you stop running after recognition, you become more trustworthy. When you are no longer eager to prove, people draw near to listen. When you simply stand steady and at peace, the air around you changes. Conversations slow down. Restless hearts become quiet, not because you impose anything, but because you carry what they lack: peace. I did not call you to become noisy. I called you to become clear. Clarity does not come from volume, but from root. Clarity does not come from effort, but from identity. You once assumed that to be respected you needed visibility. But in my rhythm you will discover that respect comes from stability, not from striving. People may argue with words, but they cannot argue with peace. The enemy may resist strategy, but he cannot resist presence. There are battles you do not need to fight, you only need to stand. There are accusations you do not need to answer, you only need to keep your heart at rest. In the silence of faith, there is the sound of victory. I have seen you try to make noise on the stage of life, to be noticed, to be heard, to be chosen. But now, I teach you something deeper, not the stage, but the foundation, not the spotlight, but the roots, not the surface, but the weight. A person who carries spiritual weight does not need to push their way forward. When they enter a room, the room adjusts. When they speak, their words are few but full. When they pray, heaven responds, not because they are perfect, but because they are anchored in me. In my rhythm, silence is not lack, it is authority. Remember, through the wilderness I led my people with a pillar of cloud by day and fire by night. The cloud did not shout. The fire did not yell. Yet the whole nation followed. not because it impressed, but because it carried my presence. You are the same. When you walk in the new rhythm, those who need to be strengthened will recognize it not by sight, but by spirit. You do not need to pull anyone. You do not need to prove anything. Just stand in me, and light will do the rest. No introduction needed, no slogan, no list of accomplishments. When the rhythm of heaven touches your body and breath, others will sense the shift before you can find words to describe it. Just as the scent of wind arrives before anyone notices the leaves moving, the transformation inside you will arrive before explanation, not through sharp eyes or forceful steps, but through something hard to name, a quiet majesty, a gentleness that is not weak, a stillness that is deep. There will be moments when you enter a room and the conversation slows. The atmosphere changes. The storm in another person's heart pauses for a beat. They will not know why, but their soul will recognize that something greater than themselves is present. You will be surprised when people who barely know you come to ask counsel, to share things they have told no one, not because you mastered a technique, but because the gate of heaven has opened over you. That grace carries a hidden weight, my wind breathing upon your life like the scent of a garden after rain, light yet deep, gentle yet lasting. People will think it is coincidence, but nothing is coincidence in a life touched by me. Every glance, every meeting, every pause becomes a holy point of connection between earth and heaven. Others may not believe in big words, but they will believe in the presence you carry. There will be times when you hear someone say, "I don't know why, but I feel peace when you are here." They are not speaking of your intelligence, nor of your perfection. They are speaking of an atmosphere. Atmosphere does not come from effort, but from identity. Fragrance does not come from the vase, it comes from the flower. You are carrying fragrance from the higher realm. This is why you do not need to force yourself to be perfect, to be useful. You are not a puzzle to solve. You are a wind to blow. When you keep your heart in me, everywhere you go is refreshed. Even before you speak, others will lower their voices, not out of fear, but out of respect for something they cannot name. Your silence will no longer make people uneasy as before. It will make them listen. That weight does not come from sternness, but from peace. When you stand, the ground feels steady. When you look, the person across from you knows they are truly seen. When you smile, defenses dissolve. This is not strategy, this is anointing. Wind always arrives before sound. The shift inside you always arrives before explanation. You do not need to speak at length about what I am doing. You only need to live within what I am doing. When you step, doors open without your hand touching them. When you stop, storms quiet without your command. When you sit, healing begins without your effort. What you carry is not impression, but presence. And that presence does not come from you, but from the one to whom you belong. Others will sense it before you can describe it. They will see the light in your eyes, the strength in your peace, and they will know heaven has shifted, and you have moved with it. You are not invited to heaven's gate as a spectator, standing to watch and applaud a holy scene. You are not a tourist with a ticket to observe the light. You are called as a carrier, a bringer, a torchbearer going before. What I place in your hand is not for admiration, but for giving. In every step, every breath, every quiet conversation, there is a current you are carrying, not dry knowledge, not a spiritual lecture, but the very atmosphere of me. You come to the gate not to tell people how beautiful it is. but to step through and bring that light into places where the light has not yet arrived. There is a great difference between the one who looks and the one who walks, between the observer and the carrier. Observers stand outside and comment, carriers go in and change things. Light does not shine from a distance, it shines from where it is present. If you only admire, blessing falls but does not spread. If you only talk about the gate, you may know much. Yet the world remains dark. I do not lead you into wonder so you can stand delighted. I lead you so you can bring what you have seen into where you live. What I show you in the high places must become reality beneath your feet. You are a bridge. You are a messenger. You are the hand that holds the torch in the night. Many come near me only for inspiration. They want spiritual feelings, beautiful visions, stirring moments. But those moments are not souvenirs. They are fire for your heart, so that you may carry the fire far. When you stand before heaven's gate, inspiration is not enough. There must be mission. There must be step. There must be giving. The hungry need bread, not descriptions of bread. The drowning need a hand, not theories of rescue. You are not here to collect feelings. You are here to transfer life. In your hand is a torch, not because you are strong, not because you are worthy, but because I have given it. The torch is not for lighting your way alone. It is to guide others who are groping in the dark. Light does not diminish when shared, it grows. When you raise the torch, faces around you brighten, their eyes see, their feet step, their hearts lighten. You think yourself small, yet the torch in your hand makes you a point of orientation. In this season, not only are you being led, others will be led because of your steadiness. You come to the gate not to satisfy yourself, but to carry fire. What I give you is not visible material, but power hidden inside peace. When you speak simple words, they travel far. When you lay a gentle hand, healing comes close. When you stand, without any grand motion, the atmosphere changes. You do not need to do something extraordinary. You only need to carry what I give. When you enter someone's home, the room calms. When you sit with the weary, they breathe again. When you open your mouth, guarded walls fall. You do not do this by strength, but by presence. That presence comes from me, and I want it to spread. Do not let your heart say, I am just ordinary, I have nothing. You do not come to the gate as ordinary. You come with a name that has been called, with a robe that has been given, with a torch that has been placed in your hands. You carry my word, my breath, my light. Wherever you step, my seeds fall. Others may not know how to see them, but they will feel them. One word at the right time opens a door. One embrace at the right moment mends a deep crack. One silent smile soothes a stormed soul. You do not need to explain. You carry. I have not invited you merely to learn more knowledge. I invite you to become light. You have stood outside long enough. You have observed long enough. You have commented long enough. This is not the season for commentary. This is the season of spiritual action. Not loud, not showy, not hurried, but strong. Every step carries weight. Every word carries authority. Every breath is prayer. Every interaction is a bridge. When you go, you carry me into it, not by theory, but by life. You are not a spiritual analyst. You are a bearer of fire. Do not be afraid if you feel small before a great task. A small torch still splits the dark. A single flame still reveals the shape of demons. A single word of love still breaks chains in the heart. Your mission is not measured by the size of crowds, but by the brightness of flame. There will be times you speak to one person and then move on. There will be times you stay silent, yet the one beside you changes. There will be times you scatter prayers like salt on a road, and by morning, the ice melts. Do not underestimate. In your hand is fire. In your feet is direction. In your heart is mission. What I am doing does not require a grand stage. It requires a ready heart. When I see your hand open, I place a torch. When I see your feet stand, I grant a path. When I see your eyes search, I show a gate. You do not come to admire, you come to carry. This is the center of the season. You are a transporter of grace, a bringer of water into deserts, a bearer of good news into places of sighing, a giver of warmth into cold nights. And I walk with you. Every step carries the echo of my footsteps alongside. When you carry the torch I give, you will discover a beautiful paradox. What is heavy to the world becomes light upon your shoulders, not because your strength is great, but because your shoulders were made to carry things of heaven. My yoke is easy, not because the load is small, but because the yoke fits. When shoulder and yoke fit, there is no chafing, only rhythm. You once thought mission would crush you, but I say mission is honor. Those who carry mission do not hunch, they stand tall, not because they are strong, but because the one who places the yoke walks beside them. My weight does not break the spine, it straightens it. It does not drain life, it awakens life you thought was gone. The world looks at what I place upon your shoulders and says, too heavy, but in my kingdom, that weight is glory. People see responsibility, I see opportunity to reveal myself through you. People see burden, I see grace. People count the cost, I tell you the cost has already been paid on the cross. So when I place something on your shoulders, you do not sink. You will feel something else, arising from within, a strange strength you did not invent. I do not place the load first and give strength later. I give strength first, then place a task that matches that strength. Your power does not come from muscle, but from presence. Many carry loudly and break. You carry quietly and stand. There are things the world calls heavy: a wounded soul, a home in need of peace, a door that needs a keeper, a group that needs a leader, a prayer that must be carried in perseverance. To the world, these are burdens, but for you, they are the places where I lay my hand. When I lay my hand upon something, burden becomes grace. I do not bring you to a place so you can endure life. I bring you to the place where my glory is revealed. When you carry what I place upon you, you will not be drained as before. On the contrary, you will find yourself strengthened as you carry. There is a secret here. My burden does not deplete, it fills. It does not make you gasp for breath, it opens your lungs. It does not bend you over, it pulls you to stand tall. And then you will see that what others run from is what feels light in your hands. Not because the work has grown smaller, but because you have grown larger. Your capacity inside has been widened by those shadowed seasons when you thought you were not progressing. Every tear, every act of persistence, every time you fell and rose again, all of it stretched your heart, broadened your shoulders, cleared the path for the weight of glory. Like a farmer carrying 2 buckets of water on his shoulders, his back does not weaken, it grows strong. The callus does not only testify of pain, it is the mark of new strength. When I place something on your shoulders, you do not tremble as before, you feel a rightness, not because you love suffering, but because you realize you were made to carry this. There will be those who ask, how can you carry so much and still be at peace? You will simply smile, not because you know how, but because you know who carries with you. When I walk beside you, your stride falls into step with mine, and the load is shared in a way no one can explain. They think you carry alone, but you know better. Every breath you draw is my breath. Every step you take is a step in my rhythm. You do not have to strain to avoid breaking. You simply have to walk in the rhythm. That rhythm is the secret. That rhythm is the source. When others see you standing firm in the storm, they will ask, why? It is not because you are strong, but because your burden comes from heaven. On your shoulders I place what seems heavy prayer for the city, care for your family, guidance for the young, words for the wandering, covering for the weak, perseverance in the storm. But to me, these are light, for they are not heavy to the one who created heaven and earth, and you carry not only by strength, but by grace, not by tension, but by breath. As you breathe, you carry. As you walk, you carry. As you love, you carry. You do not need a complicated plan. You need a surrendered heart. In your hands there is a torch. On your shoulders, a mantle. In your heart, a rhythm. Not the rhythm of the world, but of heaven. I will place upon you things that make human reasoning say, impossible, while your faith will answer, possible in Him. When you look at the work before you, do not measure it by your old capacity. Do not measure by old strength. Do not measure by memories of failure. Measure by the new rhythm. In my rhythm you will find that what others call a heavy burden becomes your joy. What others see as exhausting becomes your love. People fear responsibility. You will delight in it. Not because you love pressure, but because you love purpose. Purpose is light. Meaninglessness is heavy. I have seen you carrying burdens that are not yours, excess worry, useless self-blame, old comparisons, fear of being forgotten. These are heavy because they do not come from me. When I place the burden, you are strengthened. When you place it on yourself, you are crushed. I want you to know, I do not place anything on you to harm you. I place it to lift you. My burden does not press you down. My burden trains you. It builds spiritual muscle. It opens discerning eyes. It erects dignity. It pulls you out from the frail boy into the one who wears a mantle. Not a decorative mantle, but a mantle of assignment. Others will say, you are doing too much. You will burn out. But exhaustion does not come from carrying the right thing. Exhaustion comes from carrying the wrong thing. When you carry what is right, you feel alive. When you carry what is right, you feel life flowing. When you carry what is right, you sleep well. When you carry what is right, you wake with fire in your heart, not dread. The weight of heaven does not freeze, it refines. It does not imprison, it releases. It does not dry you out, it makes you sprout. I want you to walk in the honor of the burden. Do not be ashamed of wide shoulders. Do not apologize for having weight. Do not shrink yourself just to fit other people's comfort. You were not born to be small. You were born to carry, not to prove, but to serve, not to show off strength, but to pour out water. When you arrive, know this, I will place something upon you, and it will fit. Others may not understand, but they will see the results. They will see barren places come alive. They will see souls they thought dead rise again. They will see peace in chaotic homes. They will see miracles in ordinary lives. And they will know someone has carried something from heaven here. Do not be afraid if you feel weight on your shoulders. It is the sign of assignment. It is the sign of glory. It is the sign of being called by name. That weight does not push your head down in shame. It lifts your head in purpose. When my yoke rests upon your shoulders, your face shines, not because you are perfect, but because you are in rhythm. That rhythm is the song you forgot. And now I am teaching it again. Not the rhythm of the world, but the rhythm of heaven. As you walk, you will know I have placed something upon your shoulders, and because it is light to me, it will be light to you. When you carry what I place in your hands and upon your shoulders, you will experience a spiritual law the world cannot understand. Doors do not open to those who merely wait. Doors open to footsteps. I do not tell you to wait until every sign lines up in perfect order. I tell you to step, and when your foot touches the ground, the hinges turn. Others wait for the city gates to shake. You need only walk. Others look for an official invitation. You need only obey my rhythm. Doors crafted by my hand do not respond to loud knocking, but to the one who carries my presence. When you carry what I give, the key is not an object in your pocket, it is you. There are doors that will not open for power or fame, but they will open to one who carries the atmosphere of heaven. For years you have stood before doors thinking, when it opens, I will go through. But my law is reversed. When you step, it will open. Not recklessness, but obedience. Not daredevilry, but trust. Not illusion, but rhythm. I do not drop you into a dead end. I lead you across a threshold. As you go, not every gate will turn, but the ones I have appointed will. Not every house will welcome you, but the ones that need you will open at the hour you arrive. Not every room will receive grace, but the rooms that belong to your assignment will brighten when you enter. You do not have to push. You only have to come. The world thinks miracles are great flashes of light, but I often work as softly as a breeze. A door cracks open, unnoticed, and you think it is coincidence. But it is my hand, an unexpected meeting, an unplanned conversation, a simple invitation. These are me turning the hinges with small movements. Many miss them because they wait for thunder. You pay attention to the whisper, a small key brushing the lock, a soft click, and you know the door has opened. No crowd needs to approve. No court needs to confirm. You only need to step. Not every door opens at the same time, because I do not give you many keys at once. Every season has its own gate. Every step has its own light. You do not need to know the next gate before you have walked through the one in front of you. I do not hand you the whole map of the future at once, because you would tremble. I give a beam of light strong enough for one step. When you step, the light moves one step ahead. Others call that risk. I call it companionship. When Abraham went out not knowing where he was going, the door opened because he walked. Scripture says, by faith, Abraham obeyed and went, not because he knew everything, but because he knew me. When you carry what I give, not every door will swing open easily, but heavenly doors will not resist you. They may creak. They may hesitate for a second, but they will turn, not by force, but by presence. I will place in you something no one can deny, a persuasion without words, a light without lamps, a steadfastness without strength. There are rooms appointed for you, and when you stand at the threshold, the air shifts, the weary breathe, the confused see clearly, not because you explain, but because you carry. When you carry what I give, you will witness the language of the unspoken. A door will swing at your arrival. An email will come at the perfect hour. An unexpected invitation. A confirmation in your heart that no one suggested. My miracles are not always fire from heaven. My miracles are often hinges turning at the right time. One day you will look back and say, no one pushed that gate. Yet it opened. I did it because I ordained that gate to welcome your steps. But remember this, I open doors for those who step, not for those who wait outside for guarantees. Not because I am harsh, but because I honor the rhythm of faith. Faith is not shouting loudly, it is stepping quietly. When you step quietly but firmly, the ground hears. Every gate that belongs to you hears the sound. There are places you will enter without business cards, without introductions. They will say, we have been waiting for you, though we did not know why, because they heard you before they saw you. Not the knock, the footsteps. I will show you this. There are doors that open for one person, one time, not because I am stingy, but because it is a heavenly moment. When that door turns, do not wait for perfect emotion. Do not wait for everyone to understand. Do not wait for applause. Just step. The door will not close while you are passing through. It closes behind you to protect what I have entrusted. You do not need to look back to see whether it remains open. The door has fulfilled its assignment. Now you are inside. And inside there are other doors. When you carry what I give, you will see miracles as natural as breathing. Not once a year, but every day. A prayer in the morning, a moment at noon, a sigh in the evening, and a gate turns. Not a large door before 10,000 people, but a small door before one soul in need. Do not measure miracles by size. I measure by intention. When one heart opens, that is also a gate, not a stone gate, but a heart gate. And when the gate of the heart opens, heaven pours in. I will set you before doors you thought were not for you, places where you once thought, I am not enough. But when you arrive, the hinge hears a familiar step. Not familiar with you, but familiar with me in you. The door opens because I am present. You carry me. So the door welcomes, not because of merit, but because of covenant, not because of your name, but because of my name. When my name is upon you, the door does not ask for credentials. The door asks, is presence here? And when presence is here, the door turns. Walk with the confidence of one who knows that gates do not resist heaven's will. You do not need to break doors. You do not need to fight for space. You do not need to push and press. You only need to walk in rhythm. In rhythm, doors open. Out of rhythm, doors fall silent. Listen for the rhythm. My rhythm is not rushed, but it is exact, not slow, but perfectly timed. When the rhythm comes, step. When the rhythm says stop, stand. Not from fear, but because I am turning another hinge. Waiting for rhythm is not passive. Waiting for rhythm is preparing to step. You may find yourself on the threshold between two worlds, 1 foot in the old, 1 foot in the new. That is not wrong. That is transition. Step all the way in. Do not fragment your soul. Do not leave part of yourself outside. Bring your whole being into the place I lead. When you bring your whole self, the door opens whole. When you bring half a heart, the door opens halfway. But when you bring all of your heart, the door turns wide. Not because I am cruel, but because the door knows who is stepping. The greatest gate will open not when you shout, but when you believe. Sometimes you will see a wall, but the wall is not the end. The wall is a gate that has not yet turned. As you draw near, you will feel a breeze beneath the hinge. That is the sign. That breeze is the invitation. The gate is waiting for the one who carries. You are the one who carries. You carry what I give, and where you carry it, the door will open. When one walks in heaven's rhythm, the inner eye becomes brighter than the outer eye, not because the world changes color, but because the eyelids of the soul are lifted. What was once only mist becomes clear as mountain ridges at dawn. You will look back over the days and ask, why did I not see this sooner? Not because you lacked wisdom, but because the curtain had not been drawn. When the curtain opens, ordinary things become signs, and every stirring becomes a message. I do not add work to your life. I add sight to what was already there. Those who stand outside see chaos, but those who stand within heaven's movement see formation. Not randomness, but alignment. Not noise, but music. My heavenly hosts do not move silently. They march with majesty through the ordinary events mortals call news. Coincidence, accident, but to you, they are strategy. You hear the clash of shining shields where others only hear wind. You smell the battlefield on words that seemed peaceful. You feel the pressure of a gate turning where others only feel stress. This is not to make you afraid, but to make you steady. Elisha did not pray for the enemy to disappear. He only prayed that the servant's eyes would be opened. When eyes open, fear dies, not because the enemy vanishes, but because a greater truth appears. Behold, the hills were full of horses and chariots of fire around Elisha. That was not metaphor, it was reality, unseen by natural eyes. When you stand in my rhythm, you will see that fire does not burn you, it burns fear. You will see that darkness does not swallow you, it flees from the light you carry. Others will look at you and say, you are so calm, but they do not know that you are not standing alone. What keeps you at peace is not because the storm is small, but because the army of fire is great. What makes you walk slowly is not lack of strength, but because you hear the drums of another battalion. What keeps you from panic is not ignorance of danger, but awareness of protection. This is a vision not learned, but inhabited not knowledge, but union with heaven's rhythm. When the curtain is drawn back, not every mystery is revealed at once. Some things are shown to you in parts so you are not overwhelmed. I do not want you to drown in visions and forget to walk. I let you see enough to be steady, but not enough to become proud. I let you see the enemy, but even more, I let you see me. For those who stare at the enemy too long will tremble. Those who stare at me long enough will stand. This is why I open the curtain in rhythm, turning it with each breath, lifting your eyes from the ground without taking you off the ground. You still have a mission to fulfill. Do not be surprised if some around you do not understand why you are changing. They do not see the army, they see you step. But they do not see why you are sure. They call it risk, you call it obedience. They call it madness, you call it being led by the Spirit. There is no need to argue, no need to prove. When the time comes, they themselves will ask, how did you know? and you will say, I was in the movement of heaven, and the curtain opened, not boasting, but bearing witness. What I give you is not the sense of a guesser, but the vision of a companion. You are not a fortune teller, you are a child. You do not read the sky in fear, you listen in love. You do not look for signs to dodge disaster, you look so you can walk the right way. When you stand inside the movement, every change in your life ceases to be a threat and becomes guidance. A word, a meeting, a dream, an unexpected silence, all of it is news from heaven. I do not send a signal once, I send them continually. And the one who stands in the rhythm does not miss them. Opened eyes do not tire you. Opened eyes lighten you. You no longer overinterpret everything. No longer try to control every detail. You know that what belongs to you will not slip away from you. You know that what closes does so to protect you, and what opens does so to invite you forward. Vision does not make you proud, it makes you humble. You are not the source. You are simply the one who sees the flow. You are not the one who makes the waves. You are the one who hears them coming. When I cause you to stand in places no one notices, do not think you have been pushed to the margins. In my design, side gates often lead to the most beautiful places. People rush to the main gate, seeking attention, applause, recognition. But my blessing rarely pours through the noisy places. It flows through quiet hinges, through thresholds that have not been polished, through corners only those who walk close will see. You will be one of those places. Not a bright sign, not trumpets announcing, but a quiet presence full of authority. Whoever walks close to where you stand will find a door open and not know why. This does not make you the center of the story, it makes you the path, and that is an honor, not a demotion. People will come without knowing that I myself ordered their steps past your feet. They think they found their way, but in truth they were led. They imagine they met you by chance, but it was an appointment I set in secret. They do not need to know everything. They only need to step into blessing. I do not need you to be the chairman of a gate. I need you to be a living hinge. Hinges are not beautiful, but they hold the whole door. In the days to come, you will see people who do not come to ask for advice, but simply to be near. They will breathe easier. Their hearts will feel lighter, and they will not know why. They will think you spoke exactly what they needed, but what they receive is not primarily from your words, but from my breath through you. There are things I transmit not through explanation, but through presence. When someone sits under a tree, they do not need to understand how the tree draws water. They only need the shade. You will be that shade. Others will be cooled and revived without needing the formula. I will bring to you those who are exhausted, those weary from their own battles, not so that you carry their load for them, but so that you can show them the way in. You do not save, I save. You do not bless, I bless. You simply point. And the wonder is this: the direction you point to is not a doctrine, but an open door. They step through because you were standing in the right place at the right time. You do not have to try to attract them. The gate of heaven itself draws them. You only need to stand near so they do not lose their way. It is a small role in human eyes, but a great one in mine. Not everyone will recognize this immediately. Some will think you are doing nothing. Others will think you lack scope or influence. But they will not see the streams of people who step into blessing because of where you stood. You will not know all their names. You will only know that they came, and they left lighter, stronger, brighter. That is your portion in a larger picture. No signature needed, no cheers required. That hiddenness is your robe. That smallness is your power. I delight in it. Those whom I use as side gates all share this. They do not seek position, they seek me. And when they seek me, I give them positions no one else values, but which I consider strategic. You will learn that some of the greatest victories do not happen on stage, but in the hallway. Some miracles do not take place under the lights, but in the shade before the door. Stand there with love, with an open heart, with listening ears. Others will step into blessing without ever knowing whom to thank, and you will rejoice, because it means I have been at work. When the road has grown long, you will look back and realize every detour, every delay, every turn that once made you think you were lost was never outside the route. It was not that you were groping your way to the gate of heaven, it was that the gate was moving to meet you. You are not the discoverer, you are the found. Every time you thought you were advancing toward it, the gate was advancing toward you. Your footsteps were only the echo of a greater movement I began long before you knew my name. When you exhaled in exhaustion and whispered what you thought was your final prayer, that was the very moment the hinges turned slowly and the gate came to stand right on your path. This softens your heart. No more boasting that you found it. No more telling how you persevered in searching, but only bowing in gratitude. You are not the champion of a treasure hunt. You are the one welcomed into a family. Suddenly all pride fades. All comparison dissolves. You understand that if I had not sought, you would be lost. If I had not called, you would not hear. If I had not waited, you would not dare draw near. There is a lightness in this truth. It does not push you down, it lifts you up. For the loved one is loved not because of merit, but because of their name. In that moment, the memories of dry seasons, long nights, and unanswered questions will change color. They will no longer be evidence of abandonment, but proof that the gate was taking the long way around to meet you at the right time. You will see again the people who passed through your life, the encounters that seemed meaningless, the uncomfortable events, and you will realize it was the gate sending signals. Bit by bit, the knocks were not random, the interruptions were not accidents. They were the footsteps of what was coming to find you. There will be a moment when you stand still and realize you are not chasing heaven. Heaven is resting over you. You do not have to jump high to reach it. You only need to stand in your own true place. I have come, not because you searched correctly, but because you did not run away. I have opened, not because you were worthy, but because I placed my love upon your name. And that love does not tremble like mist, it stands firm like rock. When you understand this, your breathing slows. A holy kind of nostalgia washes over you. You remember every place where I was present in the moments you thought I was absent. I have never been far. From here on, you will not walk with the posture of a pursuer, but of one who is received, not straining to prove, but light enough to live truthfully, not running for fear of missing out, but walking with the assurance that the gate will shift according to the rhythm I set. You do not need to worry about missing your moment. What belongs to you will not slip away from you. Heaven's gate knows your name. It turns toward you, and when the wind changes, you will feel it. Things will no longer feel random, but like invitations. You are no longer outside, you are standing at the threshold. There are things that can only be seen clearly when you pause for a moment and look back at the road you have traveled. Not to regret, not to accuse yourself, but to recognize that every step, every season, every seemingly meaningless second carried a code. That code was not written to entertain you, but to guide you. Every time you thought you had chosen the wrong direction, I was in fact leading you around an unseen cliff. Every time you felt delayed, I was in fact keeping time so you would arrive at the right door at the right moment. Not every early opportunity is good, because what is not yet matured, if opened too quickly, will only drain you. The doors that have not opened are often the guardrails of my heart. Not a punishment. You have never been forgotten. You just have not seen the map from above. From ground level, you only see sharp turns. But I look from a higher place, where every turn joins into a single stroke. Each detour, each curve, each slow point forms the shape of a new letter in your story. And now that you have come far enough, those strokes begin to read. No longer chaos, no longer fragments. All of it has contributed to this moment, where heaven's gate leans down and casts its golden light upon your name. There are times you have asked, why not sooner? Why not easier? Why not straighter? I hear every one of those questions, and I do not condemn you. But I know that if you had reached this place too early, it would have harmed you. There are blessings that only come when the roots are deep. There are graces that only pour out when the heart has learned to let go. I am not slow. I am exact in timing. And now you stand here, not because of luck, but because of all the times you steadied your heart, the times you cried in silence, the times you stood up while trembling, the times you whispered to me, I will not let go of your hand. This is the moment when heaven's gate shifts, not to surprise you, but to let you step in, not to frighten you, but to let you receive. Great events do not always arrive with thunder. Sometimes they come through a breath, a glance, a thought you never dared to think before, but which now becomes clear. I am not where I used to be. This place has changed. You see that the things you once tried so hard to hold no longer need to be held. Relationships that once exhausted you now quietly fade without conflict. Fears that once clung to you now fall away like dry leaves. Not because you became strong, but because heaven's gate has turned. In this new light, you see that standing still can sometimes be more dangerous than stepping. Standing still when I move is getting lost. Stepping when I stand is panic. But when you listen for the rhythm of my breath, your steps and heaven's steps fall into sync. You no longer have to guess. You only need to walk alongside. You will see old things lose their grip, not because they are evil, but because their season is over. Just as a tree does not cling to its leaves when the winds of autumn blow, you do not hold on to what has died just to prove your loyalty. Faithfulness is not clinging, it is knowing when to release. This is not separation by failure, this is separation by destiny. There are people who cannot walk with you into this place, not because they are weak, but because their path moves to a different rhythm. I do not call you to chase them, I call you to walk rightly. When you walk rightly, those who are meant to be close will come, not through pride or striving, but through holy alignment. You will see new encounters that carry the scent of heaven. Ordinary words will suddenly have a different weight. Eyes that meet will carry a shared recognition within. We are walking the same way. And there is no competition, no hidden race, no fear of lack, because heaven's gate shifts not to divide portions, but to expand territory. The spiritual space becomes wider, clearer, brighter. In this place, you will not hear the noise of pushing, nor the strain of trying to prove yourself, nor the tiredness of pretending to be strong. This is a realm where breath goes deep. You stand, and you can feel the wind. You speak, and you sense the weight of each word. You are silent, and that silence is not empty, but filled with power. This is not the silence of escape. It is the silence of one who knows they belong. In this realm, the equation changes. No longer, how do I win, but what is God doing here? No longer, who sees me, but who will be blessed because I stand here. You begin to see that you are not the center, but the channel, like a small stream carrying water from the source. You do not need to be much. You only need to be clear and continuous. You do not create the water, you simply do not block it. And when you do not block it, there is enough for many. People come to drink, then go, then tell others. Blessing does not stay, it passes through. But the mark of blessing remains on eyes, on words, on gestures. This is why I chose you to stand where others would not choose. You do not need a stage, nor lights, nor applause. I place you at the doorway, where everyone who passes must come near. They do not bow to you, they simply cross the threshold. But that threshold is where the wind shifts. The presence is nameless but weighty. The silence is humble but deep. People may not remember your face, but they remember the feeling. There was peace there, and that peace is the voice of the gate. On this day, as you draw a deep breath, you understand something that was never so clear. The whole journey was never about you finding me, but about you receiving that I have been finding you. The times you thought you discovered an answer were the times I whispered into your mind. The seasons you thought you survived by sheer will were the seasons I carried you with my own strength. You have never walked alone. And now, as you stand at the threshold, gratitude is not only in your words, it is in your very bones. Not achievement, but inheritance. Not success, but grace. That is why now your breathing is light. Your shoulders rest. Your chest no longer tightens with the old questions. You can feel heaven bending low, gentle, yet full. Heaven's gate does not stay still. It has shifted, and it has found the place where you stand. You no longer need to prove that you are worthy, nor argue that you are right. You only need to walk without haste, without confusion, without comparison. Every step is alignment. Every step is receiving. Every step is union with something larger than yourself. There is a lightness in the steps of the one who knows they are not being left behind. You are no longer in a hurry to look around to see who is following, because your purpose is not to build a crowd, but to keep pace with my footsteps. There is a deep freedom when you understand that blessing does not come through striving, but through surrender. In the years before, you dreamed of seeing the door swing wide open, longed to hear the turning of the lock. Now the door opens without noise, with nothing more than a breath of wind across the hinges. You stand and realize that what you were waiting for was not the echo, but the truth itself. The door is open. I want you to feel the difference between a door opened by effort and a door opened by destiny. A door opened by striving is heavy, because it needs your strength to keep it in place. A door opened by destiny is light, because it is held by my hand. When blessing comes from me, you do not have to spend your days guarding it. You do not need extra locks, walls, or security. True blessing is not fragile. It is not glass. It is like stone. Wherever you set it down, it remains. You do not fear losing it, because I am the one who keeps it. What I give does not slip from your hand just because you were inattentive for a day. That is the preservation of covenant. In that light, you will learn a new rhythm. the rhythm of someone who knows they are covered. Old fears that once bent your back, that made you strain to hold everything together, that shortened your breath, begin to fade. You are surprised to find your heart opening as if it never had before, not because circumstances have become easier, but because you have understood who is near. When fear no longer defines the way you walk, you begin to walk deeper, not farther, but deeper. This is not a journey of racing along the surface of the road, but a journey into the depths of presence. You will see this the deeper you go, the quieter you become. There is no need for grand declarations, no need to prove that you are entering a new season. Those who walk in presence do not put on a show, they simply go. Others look, and they know something is different. They may not be able to find words for it, but they can feel it. Your stillness carries weight. Your peace carries power. You do not rally the room, yet the atmosphere shifts. You do not preach a long sermon, yet hearts open. That is the sign of one who carries the wind from heaven's gate. You are not the storm. You are the wind beyond the gate. Storms tear down. Wind sets things in motion. Storms cause fear. Wind brings life. I do not call you to destroy. I call you to lead. Not to show off your strength, but to give breath. Not to shout loudly, but to whisper in the right place. A single small sentence can open a door in a soul. A truthful look can heal a wound that has long been sealed over. A gentle touch can erase years of self-blame. You will see that it is not only large actions that have great impact. Often, blessing arrives in silence. As you walk in that rhythm, I will bring seekers near you. Some are weary from chasing what does not last. Some are exhausted from losing their way. Some have lost their voices from shouting inside the storm. They will stand close and not know why they feel life returning. It is not because you have perfect answers, but because you have presence. There is something very real in the spiritual realm. Those who carry my breath do not merely speak about me, they radiate me. They do not strain, they simply are themselves in the light I give. In this season, you will come to see that destiny is not a burden, destiny is a fit. Destiny is not a demand, destiny is alignment. When you stand in the right place, every part of you feels the rightness. No more straining, no more acting apart, no more proving. You breathe, and that breath is thanksgiving. You work, and that work is worship. You rest, and that rest is also faithfulness. I do not divide your life into sacred and secular. I weave them together into one fabric. Every thread has value, because every breath you take is under my gaze. Believe this, there is no useless moment. Even the days that seem empty are places where I am preparing. Even the moments you think you are just waiting are moments in which I am arranging. Waiting is not a waste of time. Waiting is the first rhythm of stepping. If you only run, you will lose your way. If you only stand, you will fall asleep. But when you wait in me, you hear direction. And when the direction is clear, you walk with a certainty others call madness. They do not understand, but you do not need their understanding. You only need to hear me. There are doors in front of you that others cannot see. They are not drawn on maps, have no signs, no lights. They open only when the right person comes near. You will know because the air changes. A lightness spreads across your chest. A brightness comes to your mind. A question disappears. An answer arrives without words. My doors open by harmony, not by force. When your heart comes into harmony with my rhythm, the door hears it and turns. I want you to learn one more thing. Not every door is meant for you to step through. Some doors open so that you may simply stand and bless. Some open so that you may only look and understand. Some open so that you may speak one sentence and then move on. Not every place you see is a place you belong. But where you do belong, you will know. Not by reasoning, but by peace. Not by a passing emotion, but by a holy weight and lightness. When I want you to enter, you will have strength. When I want you to remain outside, you will have rest. People measure success by results, but I measure by obedience. Success in my kingdom is not holding much, but releasing the right things. Obedience is not exhausting yourself to do everything, but having courage not to do what I say to leave. There will be times I call you to rest, and that rest will produce more than days of toil. There will be times I ask you to speak, and one sentence will bring a turning point that 10 speeches could not. You are not the source. I am the source. You are the channel. When the channel is open, the flow never runs dry. You do not need a loud voice to be effective. Light does not compete for space. Light simply shines. And when light shines, darkness has no argument, it only retreats. Your mission is not to compare, but to illumine, not to punish, but to draw back. When you stand in that light, others will find their way home. They do not need you to take them by the hand for every step. They only need to see the light and know the direction. You are a sign, not the destination. And the sign has value only because it points to the right place. There will be days when you feel a weight upon your shoulders, and you will know it is not a burden, but authority. Others may see nothing, but inside you know something is happening today, not because you guessed, but because the wind has told you. You lift your face and see that the sky is no longer silent. When the wind shifts, you shift. When heaven's gate moves, you move. Not to keep time for appearance's sake, but to keep in unity with me. And in that unity, you will see what those outside cannot see. Streams of people quietly moving toward blessing. No trumpet needed, only an open way. Where you stand now is no longer merely a temporary stop, but the intersection of a flow. I have brought your path to meet the path of others, not to create waves, but to create connection. You do not know all who will pass by, but each person carries a story, and every story is a thread. I weave them together, not to show skill, but to make a garment. That garment will cover many souls who are cold. You do not need to know everything. You only need to stand in the right place so that your thread is not missing. There are moments in life without drums or lights, and yet they mark a new boundary. You are standing in one of those moments. No one needs to shout. No one must announce it. No public schedule is required. I only step close, and everything changes. Not by storm, but by peace. Not by shouting, but by a quiet force that moves. You know this, for your breath has changed. Your heartbeat is the same, yet there is a new depth. Your eyes look the same, yet there is a light within. From now on, you will no longer walk with the posture of someone who must prove, not because you are perfect, but because you have been found. I did not invite you to compete, but to companion. I did not draw you near so that you would strain, but so that you would live true. Your breath now is gratitude. Every step is worship. No trumpet needed. No applause required. Your peace is the voice. Your light is the testimony. You do not need to speak loudly. Others will hear with their hearts. For many years you believed you had to climb until you reached the gate. But the gate has moved. It has inclined downward, not so that you would leap, but so that you would step. I do not ask for vaulting strength, I ask for an open heart. What is behind you is not wasted. It was the corridor that led here. The dry seasons were not punishment. They were deep soil for roots. The long nights were not absence. They were the darkness a seed needs to germinate. You are not late. You are on time, the hour of blessing, the hour of grace. You will learn to live without fear of missing out. Blessing does not run away from you, because blessing knows your name. The gate does not move to confuse, but to guide. When you open your hands, you do not lose. You receive. When you release what I did not call you to carry, you do not fall. You are lifted. When you pause to breathe deeply, you are not slow. You are being prepared. Everything I did in the old season was not to diminish you, but to make room in your heart for what is coming. Now you do not need to look around to compare. Each person has their rhythm. Each soul has its own map. I do not measure with one ruler for all. I walk with each one in a way they can understand. You do not know the whole plan. You only know me, and knowing me is enough for today. You will no longer ask again and again whether you are right. Peace within is the sign. When I want you to stand, your heart will rest. When I want you to step, your heart will stir. When I want you to wait, your heart will be steady. This is the rhythm of one who is led. There were things in the previous season that you did not understand, but now they begin to make sense. I did not forget. I did not miss. I did not overlook. Not one tear fell that I did not see. Not one sigh rose that I did not hear. I kept them all not to hold against you, but to return in blessing. You did not know what I was doing in the dark, but now you see the fruit in the light. You have crossed over, not because you were strong, but because my hand was on your back. Remember this every day. I did not invite you to be a spectator. I called you to live. Gates have turned where you stand. New spaces have opened that you never knew by name. You do not need to understand everything to step. You only need to trust. Not trust in yourself, but trust in me. I have brought you here, and I will bring you forward. The wind will change. The doors will turn, but I do not change. Keep your hand in mine. Do not tense. Do not fear. Do not hurry. Breathe. Breath is the sign of life. I have placed that life within you. Do not fear silence. Many great things arrive in silence. Do not fear small changes. Many great strategies begin with a small step. Do not fear those who leave. I know who must stand near you in this season. And do not fear those who arrive unexpectedly. I send them because you have blessing to share. You do not need to save anyone. You only need to be present. I am the Savior. You are the channel. When the channel is open, the flow never lacks. And when you look back once more, see this clearly. It is not that you found the gate of heaven. The gate of heaven found you. You are the loved one, not the lost. You are the called, not the forsaken. You are the bearer, not the beggar. This is identity. This is the mantle. You do not wear a garment to display. You wear it to live. And that garment will keep you warm when strong winds come. Now let your heart be soft. Let your eyes be open. Let your steps be slow and sure. You do not need to impress. You do not need to strain to keep the blessing. My blessing does not slip away. My doors do not close when you stand in the right place. You do not need to push. You only need to follow. I go before. I walk with. I come behind. There is no emptiness between us. Now, step, the gate is open. Not hurried, not anxious, not comparing. Simply step with trust and quiet breath. I will lead you into the new day, the new season, the new territory. You are no longer outside. You are in the middle, and I am with you. Thank you for listening to the message today. Click subscribe and turn on notifications so that together we may receive the living word. Build strong faith and walk in the boundless love of God. Amen.